Hello guys, Combat Critique here. In this video I want to talk about this fight between Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor, which is supposed to take place in the Ultimate Fighter 31 finale. So who do I pick in this fight and what do I think about these two guys? Let's get started in this video. So let's talk about the stats of these two guys. Let's talk about McGregor first. So he has 28 fights, 22 wins and 6 losses. Out of the 22 wins, 19 have come via knockout, 1 by submission and 2 by decision. So most of his wins come by knockout. And if we talk about the 6 losses, 2 of them have come via knockout, 4 by submission and 0 by decision. If we talk about Michael Chandler, he has 31 fights, 23 wins and 8 losses. By knockout he has 11 wins, by submission 7 and by decision 5. So it's pretty even. It's a little bit more inverted like this, so most of his wins have come via knockout, little less by submission, and even further lesser number of wins have come via decision. Now let's talk about his 8 losses. 4 of them have come via knockout and 1 by submission, 3 by decision. So if we look at McGregor, he usually wins by a knockout and he usually loses by a submission. If we talk about Michael Chandler, he also usually wins by a knockout. In recent times, especially in the UFC, he has been shown to be a striker, and most of his losses have also come in the striking department. He has been knocked out 4 times. Now let's talk about the physical stats of these two guys. So the height is 5 feet 9 inches for McGregor, whereas it is 5 feet 8 inches for Michael Chandler. So Michael Chandler will be the shorter fighter in this fight. Weight is easy for 155 for both these guys. This fight actually takes place at 170 and not 155. So both these guys will have an advantage in the fact that they will not have to cut a lot of weight. Reach is 74 inches for Conor McGregor and 71 inches for Michael Chandler. So again a 3-inch reach advantage to Conor McGregor, who also has a 1-inch height advantage. Stance for McGregor is southpaw and stance for Michael Chandler is orthodox. So typical southpaw versus orthodox in the striking battle. If we talk about age, so Michael Chandler is a little older, Conor McGregor is younger. So again age advantage goes to McGregor. Now let's talk about the striking statistics of these two guys. Strikes landed per minute is 5.32. So strikes landed per minute are the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute on average. That is 5.32. And if you look at Michael Chandler, it is 4.89. So Conor McGregor is the busier fighter on the feet. Striking accuracy is 49% for McGregor and 46% for Michael Chandler. So again slight advantage in the striking accuracy department to McGregor. Strikes absorbed per minute, which is the number of significant strikes that you absorb from your opponent on average in a minute, is 4.66 for Conor McGregor and 4.58 for Michael Chandler. So pretty even, but slight edge goes to Michael Chandler. He gets a hit a little less. Striking defense is 54% for Conor McGregor and 46% for Michael Chandler. So again this favors Conor McGregor. Now let's talk about the wrestling, grappling and submission numbers. Takedown average is 0.67 for Conor McGregor, whereas it is 2.17 for Michael Chandler. So clear advantage in Michael Chandler in the takedown numbers. Let's talk about the takedown accuracy. 55% for Conor McGregor compared to just 38% for Michael Chandler. So Conor McGregor has the advantage in the takedown accuracy department. Now let's talk about the takedown defense. 66% for Conor McGregor compared to 71% for Michael Chandler. So Chandler has the advantage in the takedown defense area. Now submission average is just 0.1 for McGregor, who just has 1 win via submission on his record, and submission average is 0.9 for Michael Chandler, even though Michael Chandler has not really submitted anyone in the UFC, or nor we have seen him going for a submission or a rear naked choke in the UFC, but still his submission average is higher than McGregor, so he has an advantage in this department. Overall, I would say if we talk about the striking game, then Conor McGregor has better striking numbers. If we talk about the ground game, then Michael Chandler has better ground game numbers, which is evident in the fact that he has 7 wins by submission compared to just 1 by McGregor. So if it's a striking battle, I will likely pick McGregor, and if it goes to the ground, then Chandler will have the upper edge. But keep note that in recent times Michael Chandler has not really used his wrestling a lot. I think the only fight where he has to showcase some of his wrestling and grappling was in the Charles Oliveira fight. He defended Charles Oliveira pretty well, but even that was not offensive grappling where he was going for submissions. It was more of a defensive grappling situation. Now let's talk about the records of these two guys. Starting with Conor McGregor. His last 2 fights he lost to Dustin Poirier, both via TKO. And before that he TKO'd Donald Cerrone in the first round. This was back in 2020. He was making a comeback after 2 years. Before that UFC 229 happened and he lost to Khabib. We all know this fight. Biggest fight in the history of the MMA. Before that, Conor McGregor was on a tear. He finished Eddie Alvarez via TKO in the second round. Before that, he won a majority decision against Nate Diaz. This was a 5-round fight. Before that, he lost to Nate Diaz in the second round via rear naked choke. So up till this point, Conor McGregor was a really good fighter. After this point, he started, he had this fight with Floyd Mayweather and he started getting indulged in his whiskey brand and all these things. So because of those his out of the ring antics, he has been not very focused in his MMA game. Now let's talk about Michael Chandler. If we talk about Michael Chandler, his last fight he also lost to Dustin Poirier via submission, rear naked choke in the third round. And before that he KO'd Tony Ferguson with a front kick in the second round. The first round of this fight I had Tony winning the round. So keep that in mind. Tony, even though he got KO'd in the second round, he had Chandler hurt in the first round. Now before this he lost to Justin Gaethje via unanimous decision in the third round. This was a back and forth striking battle where both these guys were swinging at each other. First round I had Michael Chandler winning, but the next 2 rounds I gave to Justin Gaethje, which is why he won a unanimous decision. And before that he got TKO'd by Charles Oliveira in the second round. Again in this fight, in the first round Michael Chandler was doing good. He actually hurt Charles Oliveira and knocked him down, but in the second round Charles Oliveira knocked him down and then got the finish. Before that, in his debut UFC fight, he TKO'd Dan Hooker in the very first round. And if we talk about some of his fights in Bellator, he KO'd Benson Henderson, Sydney Outlaw, and got KO'd by Patricio Pitbull. This was back in 2019 and 2020. If we look at Michael Chandler's fight, we'll see that he starts the round very explosively. This is the same case for Conor McGregor. Both these guys have the most finishes in the first round by a knockout. So both of these guys start off very aggressively and both of them are looking to land that one punch knockout blow and finish the fight in the first round. However, in the later rounds, I think both of them have an issue with cardio. We have seen Conor McGregor struggle with cardio in the past, and Michael Chandler, even though he has not really shown it to that extent, but still in the fight with Gaethje you can see some of the moments where he was kind of slowing down. Also, one thing which I don't like about Michael Chandler is he is a fighter for the fans. He comes to put on a show for the fans, which might not be the most optimal strategy for a fighter to win a fight. Sometimes, especially in the Justin Gaethje fight, he was getting tagged, and instead of maybe shooting for a double or trying to stall the fight and regain his composure, he was taunting and he was cheering the fans and all those things. So while that may look good for the fans, for the audience, it is definitely not good for the fighter, because as a fighter you just want to win the fight, and sometimes Michael Chandler gets swayed by the fans and the emotions, and he, instead of focusing on winning the fight, he's more trying to get the fans cheering. So he comes on to put on a show, whereas Conor McGregor also is kind of a showboating person, but in recent times, especially with these 2 losses, I think now he is really looking to win. He's not looking to put on a show. it would be great if he knocks out Chandler, but even if it's a boring fight, he will take it. Whereas Chandler, I think he has to prove a point. He has to make the fight interesting for the fans, and this is, in my opinion, a disadvantage for fighters who do this. In the Poirier fight, also in the first round, he was hurting Poirier, but then Poirier got back, gained his composure, and submitted him. In the Charles Oliveira fight, again he started the first round really strongly, had Charles Oliveira knocked down, but then in the second round, Charles Oliveira came back and won the fight. So Michael Chandler starts the fight really good. The first round between these two guys would be an absolute epic, round, because both these guys have a lot of finishes in the first round. Now let's talk about some of the previous wins of Conor McGregor. I am just showing all these images just to prove a point. Just notice these guys which Conor McGregor have fought and defeated via KO in the past. There's one thing that all these guys have in common is they are all shorter fighters than McGregor. So Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes, Dennis Silver, they all were shorter fighters. If you look at his record, you will see he finished Jose Aldo in the first round, 13 seconds. So Jose Aldo we see is a clearly smaller fighter than Conor McGregor. Now let's talk about Chad Mendes. He finished Chad Mendes in the second round. Chad Mendes is also a smaller fighter. And if you talk about Dennis Silver, he finished Dennis Silver in the second round via TKO. So Dennis is also a smaller guy compared to McGregor. Now if we talk about Diego Brandao, he finished him in the first round via TKO. So Brandao is also a smaller guy compared to McGregor. So McGregor does great with guys who are smaller than him. Michael Chandler, as we saw before, is a guy who is smaller than Conor McGregor. Height is 5 feet 9 inches for Conor McGregor and 5 feet 8 inches for Michael Chandler. Reach is 74 inches for McGregor and 71 inches for Michael Chandler. So Conor McGregor will have the obvious height and reach advantage, and he has done great against guys of shorter reach and shorter height. So keeping these things in mind, also the odds between these two guys are pretty even. Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler are almost even. So keeping these few points in mind, if I had to pick one guy to win this fight, I will choose Conor McGregor. So I'm picking Conor McGregor to win this fight, either via first round KO or second round KO. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.